Hi. Oh, Hulu. My God. Hi. It's so loud. Hi, I'm Rashida Jones.
Woo!
Nice to meet everybody. Hello. And I'm so happy to be here tonight in conversation with my dear friend, Kathryn Hahn. Please welcome her.
Hi. I want to thank my dear friend for doing this for me. My beautiful dear friend Rashida. How awesome are we tonight?
We're awesome tonight.
Tonight only.
You guys just watched 7 and 8, right? The last 2 episodes. Well, we're here to talk about your gorgeous. Wait, hold on. There's white wine coming. Hold on. This also doesn't
What?
fair
What?
because I feel like everybody else should have a white wine, but soon enough.
Yes.
Endure us for 30 minutes, and this will be useful.
Let this wet your whistle.
With food. Yeah. Anyway, we are here to talk about your gorgeous performance in the show. Which is, yes, please. I just have to say, I know you and I love you as a friend. I admire you so much as an actor, and the amount of the determination, the specificity, the heart, the pain, the excavation that I see here in this show. I'm truly in awe of you. I really am. It's a really, really beautiful performance. Really beautiful. And you carried a lot. So that's kind of what my first question is going to be to you, because this is obviously like a massive piece and a big journey for this character. Like, what for you in something like this do you see that makes you even want to embark on that kind of journey?
I mean, I think that like the possibility of being able to, I guess, like jump in to a person that is that difficult to unlock, that has like so many, that it's one of those parts that it's not like on the, that you don't really like understand on first read. You know that there's going to be such complexity to it, and that it's almost like you don't really know her until you've been in it for a long time, and then that is something that is so satisfying as an actor. Like, the writer, showrunner Liz Tigelaar is here tonight, and one of our other writers, Deirdre Shaw, they're both so incredible. I want you to stand up. Stand up. You have to, and it's going to be embarrassing, but that's Liz, and there's Deirdre next to her. She's waving. She's not going to stand, but they're incredible in this, and they, like, there's something about this part that was able to also capture that, the like heartbreak funny that I really respond to, that's not like sentimental, that is just the truth of it. And that's also something that I feel very, that it's not like a wink on it, it's just the what is, the recognizable laugh is always something that I feel very is well earned.
The truth, yeah. So going back to the source material for this, were you a Cheryl Strayed fan already? Had you read this piece? Like, what was your connection with the source material?
I had never read Tiny Beautiful Things. I had watched Wild, and I was blown away by Reese, and I had never read. I had listened. I don't even think I listened to Dear Sugar. I started after, of course. I was obsessed after getting it, but I went back and read the source material only after I'd read this beautiful pilot, and I was so, I mean, she had written this letter anonymously through a website called The Rumpus, and then through this woman anonymously named Sugar, I think after the success of Wild. Yeah. So that she was able to like find another avenue as she was achieving this kind of success with Wild was pretty amazing, and that she did it anonymously, and that these people would write in their most like vulnerable. It's required reading, I think, as a human, like Tiny Beautiful Things, just to have by your bed. It's so gorgeous, and just you're like, and that Liz was able to write this adaptation of this book was like really difficult, and because it's an advice column, kind of basically, but it's so much more. And so I really only met Cheryl for the first time, or I met her blindly without knowing this on like a Zoom, and kind of had like thoughts, and then I was like, oh my god, that's Cheryl Strait, and then had a whole like, oh my god, like after I read the book and the source material. So it was pretty humbling. And then seeing her for the first time, I don't know if you have seen the whole series, but like there's a shot of me on the top. It was like the ghost ship, so it was like the road I didn't take, and it's like me on the top of that glacier, and that was the first time I'd seen her on set. And
really, I haven't ever been hiking. I'm so sorry. Am I doing this right?
She immediately, I don't know, and she immediately took my backpack and was like, it's on wrong. And she like refit the backpack and was like, I think it might need to look heavier. It just doesn't feel like it's as heavy as I was like, oh. So yeah, she was pretty amazing, and really was like hands off, like just kind of knew that this was going to be not exactly her because she'd already been really played, and it was such a really let me find it through the text that I had, which was Liz's script and this group of writers.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of that, there's so many versions of this character. I mean, there's two kind of big versions of this character, and you're telling these parallel stories that it's essential that they relate to each other.
Yes.
And you have pretty much entirely different casts doing that. What were the conversations like? Like how did you tie those things together? Like what was the process with the creators and with the other actors? Like how did you guys find commonality? So you were making the same show.
Well, the beautiful Sarah Pigeon who plays, and she's extraordinary. I know, she's amazing. She's incredible. Going to Broadway, people. Stereophonic.
Broadway.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Sarah.
To the boards. Ooh, hot mic. Everybody okay in here? Okay. We had like at the beginning it was a very like, I think it was important to us all that it be not a really literal match, that it wasn't as important, that 30 years is a long time, that it wasn't as important that our hair be the same, that like that even like we didn't have to like match exactly our physicality, but that our essences lined up. That maybe if she was holding things like in a heavier way, then she could be holding it a little lighter, or have her defenses could be something else in the present, like, you know, maybe she just throws things off, or like maybe, so that was like as long as like the like essence felt similar, it felt like we were in the same story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because also, you know, I mean, you think back to when you're 20, and of course you have something in common with your 20-year-old self, but then you're like, I was such a dumb, wonderfully dumb,
yes,
naive, hopeful person. I mean, obviously this character is still holding a lot in her 20s, but like you are yourself, and then you're just not, because you feel like you become yourself. So, and that I really felt like I did feel there was something essential that you two had in common, and then there was stuff that was different, but I fully, like, I bought into the timeline of the story, and I think that's a really hard thing to do, and to me that is like that really, the acting punctuated that for me, you know. The acting was so
it was
beautiful.
important that it also not be separated by like it be just funny in the present or just something in the past, like that it really be, again, it's that like not to like to have it be just, again, I keep going back to that word essence, but that was like the thing that we wanted just to keep flowing between. Like Sarah and I, like she would watch me for the first couple of weeks. I think she was there around for the first couple of episodes, and then we kind of like let each other go. I kind of watched a little bit of her takes at the beginning, like her coverage, and then we kind of just let each other go, and we would send each other poems or pieces of music or, you know, things just to keep that conversation going. But it was never like, at a certain point we knew we just had to be like, because you know, your younger self is so caught up, you know, that you're not thinking about your, like, it's almost like you, as a 50-year-old, I'm like, whoa, you know, it was the same feeling I have, like, watching it, or the experience of making this was like, when you're young, you don't want anything to do with the even idea that you're going to grow older.
Totally. Yeah.
So I had these feelings of like, is he gonna hang out and talk about the Karen? Like, there's like, of course there was like no need to. But it was like my mourning, I think, that part of myself, like as Claire, like that, you know, trying to fix something or go back to something or like repair something, and seeing that there's just like, even reading those scenes with my mom, feeling like jealous of those scenes. Like I wasn't in them, right. That I had to kind of like have them somewhere else, you know, in my mind as I was doing these scenes in the present. It was an interesting, really, really like a deep bird. Yeah. Really deep bird.
You know, it's funny because at the end, I think there's like this satisfying moment that you get to be with your mom and you get to send her love. But weirdly, because I felt entrenched in the in between of the two characters, I wasn't like, oh, it's the first time they're on screen. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. It felt like you had been in the same room, you know? Like, it didn't feel awkward to me. It just felt like an earned moment that needed to be at the end, you know? I wasn't like surprised by it.
That was again, like it was a really deep one to find, because I think Claire, was so moved to see her, and like the circumstances, that I couldn't stop crying because it had been this buildup. And every time I would look at gorgeous Merritt Weaver's face, oh my God, what a performer. I mean, amazing. Honest. And just like available. But we didn't have the on-screen history together. Like, we would just like kind of dip into these little tiny moments, and it would have to be like all of this history behind it that you know, this is those actor things. It's being an actor, but it's hard to build that for like a shot or two or whatever. And then, you know, here we are in the middle of the night, cold, you know, the circumstances are really like out of the ordinary. And it was, I just was having these like I couldn't believe that I was like, it was an intense evening. And it was only until I got the direction and the pushing towards like, you're happy to see her. And that like shifted something open. And when she said let go, that was also on the night we discovered that. It was like, or that she discovered it. It was like, was really like cracked that moment open. But it, you know, that's a mark of, I think, also Merritt's incredible performance, that she was like, made that feel so seamless. Yeah.
Totally. Well, all of you. But so speaking of seamless, you said Claire. I'd love to Claire. I would love to know what parts of Claire are like you and which are not. Because sometimes you have to dig deep to be something that you're not inherently, and sometimes you're like, well, I got that. I know that.
It is sometimes the older I get, the harder to do something. I don't know if you find this too. Like, it feels actually tougher to do something that is like closer to the bone than something that's like a big swing. Yep. Because at this age in my life, it feels like everything is, you know, I don't know. It felt like the 40s were like amazing, and I feel like the 50s. I'm 59 years old. Now, one day I will be, and I can't wait for it. It's gonna happen. But it feels like there's this like, it really does feel like the second adolescence happens. And so there was a part of Claire that felt like she was like a petulant teen, which I definitely feel like in my own life, certainly a lot sometimes. And that was unexpected. And I think there's so much, like, I think just like figuring out relationships and how they are reminiscent of your where your child self is arriving in your present life. Like, I think I see my child self come up a lot as a parent and as a partner and as a friend and as a just someone existing in the world. And I think that is very similar to what Claire was doing, adding on to the, I don't know of any human that hasn't suffered like unimaginable loss in however that's like, defined for them. And so I think that, of course, was how they process it is so personal and comes out in the weirdest ways that sometimes you're aware of and sometimes it takes years. And like we had always talked about, like grief is not linear. It's like a circle. It just keeps, you just never know when it's going to hit and you never know when it's going to like, it just keeps going in a circle. And so I felt very, those things felt familiar. And also her just kind of like the feel of being messy also feels very natural.
To that end, speaking of the themes of the show, messy and grief, and a lot of other beautiful themes, redemption, forgiveness, the complexity of family, like how to make a marriage last, how to talk to your kid who hates you, how to survive your own life. What are you? You asked that a lot in the first couple episodes. Like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? What would you say is there? Sorry, this is like a psychology question, but what is the one theme that you walked away from doing this show that felt like you could maybe just look at it a little bit differently?
I think for sure letting go or forgiveness was a big one that this show taught me a lot about what gets stuck and what is so worth letting go of for your well-being, and not even like, the need to be heard sometimes overrides your, your personal health. And so like, I think that idea of just like, she definitely wasn't letting it go. And I think that was like a real great, like that last breath with her mom, I think was like she doesn't need to carry so much. Right. And like, you never know, like, it's tiny steps forward, but.
Yeah. It's funny, she doesn't really let go into the very end because she's fighting hard with the dad, even in the last episode. Yes. She's just like trying to protect her brother up until the very last minute. Yeah. So you wonder if she's going to be able to take that surrender to other parts of her life and take that forward.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you will, Kathryn Hahn.
Yes.
That's what's important. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. We're in a room with a lot of actors. Yes, actors. Yay. Back to work.
Love actors so much.
And, this is really nice because you're nominated for a SAG Award, and this is your first individual SAG Award nomination.
I literally could not be more flattered. These are my peeps.
And you actually said to me, this is not bullshit. You said to me, you're like, this is actually what matters to me. Like, this is actually what I care about. It means so much to me.
It's true.
Why does it mean so much to you?
Because, I think, when you're used to being outside these rooms, that's like when you never know when shit is going to hit, and you never know when if it does for you, you have to embrace, like you always say, like the Ram Dass quote, like make friends with change, because it's just never, you can't like make your life your career your life. Like it's just something that you can't control. And so when something that you do is unexpectedly like told, like you did great, like you did okay, like you did, it's just like it's just a really great and filled with gratitude, like surprise. And I really love actors, and because I was freaking the shit I shoveled for so long, which I'm sure we can all understand. Then you never know when it's gonna happen and what it's gonna look like. And I mean, I wasn't until I had 2 kids that it kind of shifted. But did I do off Broadway plays for so long? Yes. I mean, I didn't, I worked, I was a receptionist at a hair salon for so like, it just don't take this shit for granted. And that it's from my union, which I'm also like so proud of. I am like just very happy.
Okay, let's talk about that shit that you shoveled.
Yeah.
Let's go back and talk about it. Okay, what? We don't have to name any names, but like,
I'm not holding on to that shit.
It's fun to talk about. Okay, like I just have a couple questions because I actually don't know, even as your friend. I don't think I've asked you these questions. Like, I like I said, I admire you so much because you are like an actor and you love acting and you really give yourself over to your work. And of course, you have more life balance than you ever have. But like, I don't know anybody who does that more than you. It's true.
Oh my
it's
God.
really true. And you still can manage to be such a great friend and mother and wife and all that stuff. But okay, go back to the shit shoveling.
Yeah.
What, you don't have to name names, but what was the hardest job? And you can interpret hard however you want. But what was the hardest job you ever had as an actor,
Oh.
and why?
I mean, top 20. I was like, when I lived in New York, I joined a theater company, in which to join it, it was one of those where you had to get like 20 people to pay to come to your plays in order to keep it. No, they would have to pay tickets, but unless you found 20 people to come and pay tickets,
You would be done.
you would be done.
Wow.
And
It's
this
a pyramid scheme.
it was a literal pyramid scheme in which I would be performing the artistic director's one acts that he wrote and directed. And
Good?
I don't know. I was too busy hustling people to come.
It's really good. I promise.
And then on the weekends, we would go to his loft and sand his floors.
Seriously.
I'm not kidding you. And that was because it was going to be a rehearsal space, but I just never went there. I mean, it was nuts. And then someone came to the audience who was a critic for the Village Voice. God rest the Village Voice. It's not around anymore, is it? I don't think it is.
It's online.
It's online. I miss my hard copy. Again, I'm 75 years old. But I remember a critic, someone that we knew who had auditioned for the play and didn't get in, reviewed it.
It's terrible because I'm not in it.
Yeah. I was like, isn't that a conflict of interest? That's a whole different time.
Oh my god, that's a dual hard job, by the way. You were sanding floors and hustling.
I was also in a play in which the woman I was in amazing lead actress couldn't go on. It was me and 2 guys at the beginning on stage. Who were a little bit older, a lot older at the time. She couldn't go on right at the top, I heard, because she had explosive diarrhea. And then what they decided to do, these 2 men, I had no idea, was when she didn't come in for her cue, they just started it was like waiting for Godot. Like they just started from the beginning and then just did it again to where her entrance was and then just started it again from the and I was backstage like, I'm missing my grandmother's 80th birthday party for this.
Imagine how the audience felt.
Oh, I cannot imagine.
Oh God! Wow, this feels like a whole other series of conversations that we have to have. Okay, I don't actually know the answer to this question. I think everybody's very different. Are you a good auditioner?
I think not really.
Do you get nervous, or do you go hyper preparation?
I want it too badly. And so I am ready to get my heart broken. It's always the stuff that I've been like, and I'm like, oh, maybe I do want it. And then I'm like, but it's the stuff that I'm really want that I get really in my head, or my fight or flight goes like, and I'm just watching, out of the little periphery, like pencils move, people's eyes going down. Like it gets very hard for me to like do it to the person beside the camera that's like so not invested.
Not-
Of course.
Not acting with you at all.
Or just looking beyond the camera to
Yeah.
like a point beyond and being like,
This again.
yes.
Yeah. Is that I mean, did you ever feel like you dropped down in an audition where you're like, I'm so honest and present right now, and I shouldn't be, but I am? Has that happened to you?
That has happened like a few times where I remember being like, that felt, no matter what happens, because it's like such a crapshoot. I walked out of there being like, okay, that felt like really good, but rare. But you know when it feels it feels great.
Yeah. What was the first part that you had where you felt like, yeah, like this part gets me, like this part actually knows what I can do, you know?
I mean, there's been a bunch in theater, although I could also say that like my early stage career had been mostly like grandma or old men. I was always like, grandma and Grapes of Wrath. But in film, I would say Joey Soloway in Afternoon Delight. That was like the first time I felt like it was somebody saw like saw beyond like the funny, you know, best friend into the funny like pregnant best friend into the like I had like a best friend trajectory, and so I always felt like I was kind of like acting on camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where you feel like you're like, this is what the pregnant best friend does, but like I wasn't even like in the best friend.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I felt like something else is able to happen like I could do in the theater. Like I felt like an autonomy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first professional role? You can't, not the kid show. I know about that.
Hickory Hideout.
Yeah. That was, I mean, I know that was professional, but that was also like
very
public,
professional.
public,
I talked to puppets.
Public Cleveland,
Yes.
public access television. What was your first like adult
Professional
job?
Was Crossing Jordan, I would say. Yeah. Oh,
Joe. Yeah. That was a big job. How long was that?
That was like 7 years. I got
That's
it like
nuts.
thinking it was gonna be like 4 episodes. Yeah.
That was your first job?
That was my first like
Mage.
I know. Totally.
You moved to LA, like you came to LA and you booked that job.
I booked it in New York thinking it was gonna be 3 episodes. I had a storage unit in Brooklyn for probably 3-4 years before I realized, oh, it's time. Because I just really thought I was gonna go back.
Wow.
And yeah, it was so crazy.
It like forced you to commit to living in LA?
It did. It kind of kicking and screaming, but now I'm like in love. But I also miss New York too. Not to say I do. I do.
Yeah. There's time.
Yeah.
Life is long. What about what I mean I know this is a tricky question, but is there a part that you did not get that you still think about? You're like, ugh. I mean, obviously not in our control, but
yes. So many. Aren't there? There's like so many that I'm like, it's not even that I think that I should have gotten it. You know, like it's not like I watch it or I've watched it and been like, yeah, that was mine. Like, but there's definitely, I still feel like, oh, I fucked up that audition. And I wonder if it would have gone, or sometimes I feel like I really nailed it and I am still like, what was it?
Yeah, what did they not get?
Yeah.
Why was I not right for that part?
Yeah.
Do you think, this is also a big question, do you think there's because I have this conversation with a friend all the time, both of us have quit acting many times and come back to it. Do you think there's a destiny with an actor in a part?
Oh, that's so awesome.
We do.
Yeah.
Will and I do. We think that.
Yeah, I think I actually do think so. Like I think that sometimes it's clear when you're watching or when you're doing something, it doesn't feel totally destined. But if it's a part that's like somebody is like, when somebody really, when you cannot take your eyes off of someone like is just in it, like the words are just like from that mouth, like are supposed to be, you can't even hear the language, like it's just, or the lines, like it's just coming out of there, like, yeah, then that I feel like that's destiny. Yeah, or that's, I guess, a destined creation.
Yeah. What do you, is anybody? Sorry, did you? No, I thought somebody was looking at me. What do you? What do you want to play that you haven't played yet? That you haven't had the opportunity to play, and it could be like a part or a kind of person or a medium or whatever.
I mean, that is always such an interesting question because I feel like I haven't met that part yet. Like I feel like I always want to say, oh, I love horror, but I don't know what that horror would be. Like it would have to be the thing that's like specific.
You do love horror.
I do love
You're
horror.
kind of destined for horror.
I love horror
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. It's coming for you. Look,
I
you're
think
putting
that's
it
my
out.
destiny.
You're manifesting it.
I'm
See,
manifesting.
it's happening.
Would
have
you come see it
witnesses.
though? See, a lot of my friends wouldn't come see it.
I wouldn't. I'm too
Okay.
nervous.
No, she
I
would
don't
not.
like horror. I don't like horror. But psychological thriller.
Yeah,
I like.
psychological thriller.
Yeah.
A Babadook-esque.
Agatha's the first stop, and you're definitely.
Yeah, Agatha. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. You're
Can't
in the
wait.
realm. You're in like the dark arts.
Yeah, I'm in the dark arts. Definitely officially a witch.
You're in the dark arts. Okay, wait. We have time for a couple more questions.
You're such a great freaking question asker.
Oh,
I know there's an official title. Moderator, yes.
Interviewer.
Yes,
Interviewer.
yes.
Okay. Okay, this is like a method question. I'm asking for a friend.
Okay.
How do you approach stuff? I do feel like you kind of like live in yourself and you're really like in touch with stuff, but like, do you have like a method in which you approach characters? Are you like an act as if person? Do you have to like, do you feel like you have to like extract in a way, like if it's not there, like where do you go to get it? Where do you go to get the thing so that you can feel like it's truthful?
Yeah, that's so fascinating because I used to white knuckle a lot to try to get to like a desired something that I thought was, because it would either be clearly written in the scene, like she bursts into tears, and that's difficult to do over and over again. I'm not really into the menthol.
Yeah, the menthol.
Yeah.
The menthol.
Have you guys
know
heard of
about
that
the
stuff
menthol,
where they
right?
put in the eyes? Because for me, it always like I've only done it a couple times, and both times it has been a disaster.
I heard an urban myth that there's an actor who used it so much that they like ruined their tear ducts and then just cried all the time. That's kind of like a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah,
just,
that
like, couldn't
is.
Stop crying. 'Cause
That
they used it
is.
so much. Yeah, that can be a problem.
I kind of need to just like let. That's why I like to. I mean, this is like maybe sacrilege, but I like to read it once just for the whole of it, and then I read it once through the eye lens, just like what the person I'm like reading it for is going through. So like, what other people say about this character? Like, what does she like? What does she say? What does she say about other people? Like, I just feel like it's interesting to get into the like the lens that person sees the world from. And it's really interesting because you can kind of tell structurally sometimes if things that maybe are just misses sometimes. It can happen because it's like difficult to see sometimes through that lens where a person's path is like completely, but usually not. It's just like that's helpful for me. And then I write down a ton of shit about that. Whatever the specifics.
Do you journal?
I do it at the very beginning in the scripts, a ton. That's why I really love a hard copy. I'm still old school, but I really need to write it out. Yeah.
That's a
I
prepare for
can't
that.
figure out the notes in a computer, and I just need to hold it. And then like I used to not think I was method, or I used to be like, no, I can shake it off at the end of the night. I'm like, But like the older I get, the more I'm like, I think it's like a subconscious, just kind of like a question answer between the two as I go, like when I'm in it. Like, I mean, it's definitely like we've been through a lot of these journeys together where like, I definitely it definitely like affects my day to day.
Yeah, right. Like you're not like you can't compartmentalize your
100%.
life.
Yeah, it's not like I'm acting like the character or I'm just like have to stay in the accent. But I I definitely feel like it's an unconscious, just like, okay, we used to try to like pretend that wasn't happening for no reason. And I definitely think that it is. I'm trying to embrace that that's like just what's happening. It's unconscious, but I think it just has to happen. Like, I don't know how people can say like they, leave it at the thing and then they go home and make dinner. Cause I just feel like it's not like we're thinking about it, but like that vibe kind of lasts with the totality of the thing I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you're spending the majority of your waking hours for months and months.
That's
and months.
That's what my life is. Those are those hours.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I do think there's like there is not a process, and there should. The great Mary Kay Place, who's a wonderful actress, had suggested once to me that there should be as much of there is a process of preparing for a role to leave a role, to say goodbye to a role and really let it go.
100%.
Because it's hard to do that. It's very hard to do that. There should be a ritual around it. But anyway.
I would love that.
That's what I'm going to call her tomorrow. And make sure she gets on that. Wouldn't that be great?
It would be amazing.
Yeah. It's hard because if you really want to commit yourself and be as great as you are, you have to commit yourself. Like there's no shortcut there, I was always, you can fake until you feel it sometimes, but I think that the majority, I feel like when you want to just be awake and present, it's like being able to do all that prep and then, they always say like show up and throw it away, but I really do feel like any tension, I mean, that's what they say about boxers, but like any tension you have in that ring, you're gonna lose. Like you gotta just be as open as possible and find your character in your scene partner's eyes, because that's what half of it is. Yeah.
So you meet yourself in that person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I could talk all night, with Kathryn, but we can't. We have to wrap it up. So, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
This is a wonderful audience, and thank you to the wonderful Kathryn Hahn.
Rashida Jones, you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank
Best
you. What a
question
pleasure.
asker.